So, first of all, I see everybody totally sleepy here. So let's take a moment, just get up, get up, get up, stand up. Yeah, stand up. Let's do a little bit of stretching exercise. Hands up, stretch left, stretch right. Wonderful. Now you can sit back down. Awesome. Now you can relax and I can tell a story. So, this is Bilbo Baggins, who you might recall. And he has a nice house, and he lives in the Shire. Overall, he has like good food and good friends. And one day, he goes off on an adventure that he does a lot of things that he isn't really trained for. Now the clicker is not really working. Okay. And he encounters new dangers and challenges. And he learns new skills because of it. And he writes a book called There and Back Again. There and Back Again, according to J.R.R. Tolkien, is one who went off on an adventure and only to return home, speak and share their knowledge and give birth, speak and share their learned wisdom and give birth to knowledge. I'm Gil, and this is my journey from ops to dev and back again. Thank you. Talk over, go. No, just kidding. So this is my Twitter handle, and that's what the QR code is for as well. I believe in sharing the knowledge, and the best way to do that is have a discussion. And our medium of choice is Twitter. So if you disagree with anything that I say, I want to know about it. I want you to tell me maybe I'm wrong, and that's totally fine. And that's who I am. About a year ago, I had the good fortune and privilege of joining the infrastructure team at AppsFlyer. And before that, I worked for a whole bunch of other places. So I got around a bit. Nope. And a while ago, I saw this post on Hacker News. Who here knows what Hacker News is? Raise your hands. A bunch of people. So a bunch of people don't know what Hacker News is. Hacker News is an online forum run by the people at Y Combinator, which is a prominent startup accelerator in Silicon Valley. And many of the trends that you see there today are most likely going to show up in your job 2 to 3 years later. So, should software developers have sysadmin experience? I did both. Let's see what people have to say. And it was all just one big flame war, slinging of mud and feces and a whole bunch of other things. And it's as if the DevOps revolution never happened. But there's a point here. Who thinks software developers should have sysadmin experience? Raise your hands. Okay, so we see some people agreeing with me. The others, we'll get to you later. How many of you are software developers who do a little bit of operations work? Like deploying your own code, running a bit of your own infrastructure. Yeah, a bunch of you do that, I see. Great. And how many of you are operations folks who make their own tools? A little bit of those as well. But these are not the same people. There is a distinction. And you're right to have it. So I'd like to talk about this transition that I made. This is a story, of course. So we're focusing on the changes. I was a DevOps engineer at Get, and then I moved to Cloudify. So what actually happened? So at Get, I made their first automatic deployment system. Well, the one that worked anyway. And it was blue-green. It had a lot of great business value. It got us deploying much faster. All these things that were all the rage 2014-ish. And it had application lifecycle management. It had an AMI bakery, which is how we used to do immutable infrastructure before Docker. It had monitoring. And all this was written with the AWS Ruby SDK, because at the time, Get was a Ruby shop. had orchestration. So I figured, I know orchestration now, right? And then I got to know the folks at Cloudify. And I see at Cloudify, they were a pure play orchestrator. For them, orchestration is the main thing. So when I got an opportunity to join them, I was like, ooh, can do. No Rick and Morty fans, come on. Anyway. And these are the skills that I brought with me. I knew how to work with Jenkins. I knew how to work with Git, Linux. I knew to do the deliveries in the cloud. And I knew AWS and Ruby. But most of all, I had the DevOps mindset. The DevOps mindset of seeing this whole system holistically. And that's one of the cool things that Cloudify did. They hired operations engineers to build tools for operations engineers. It's the ultimate dogfooding. Anybody here know who Charity Majors is? 2 people. Cool. Anyway, so Charity Majors used to work in production engineering over at Facebook. So they got some scale. And one of the things that she constantly talks about is this notion that you're supposed to see the system holistically as a big thing. And it's called systems thinking. The concept that everything is somehow tied together. And this is like one skill that sysadmins and DevOps engineers, or whatever you want to call them, do way better than anybody else. So, should software developers have sysadmin experience? If I have convinced you, please raise your hand. Few folks, wonderful. So I came in way more independent than some other developers. I knew how to do a lot of stuff that they didn't because they weren't operations engineers before. And I knew how to MacGyver my way through things. Do people here know who MacGyver was? Raise your hand if you remember MacGyver. He was if you don't know MacGyver, MacGyver was the most awesome field engineer in the universe if you were born in the 80s. This guy would make a rocket ship out of chewing gum and fix your car with a paperclip. Amazing guy. But there's one big problem with this guy. He does everything alone. And that's kind of how you are in an operations team. You're making stuff that's only for you or maybe like 2 other guys. And when you join a dev team, suddenly you're part of a team. And you have all these things like code reviews and Jira items, and you kind of have to learn how to do that. But here's the most important thing. This is a remote control, a hackety version of a remote control. You know what this is? These are your scripts in production. They're kind of hacked together by combining all these Python packages we found online. And you combine them with like this one bash script that somebody wrote like ages ago. And these things match only your infrastructure. Your infrastructure for your team on whichever cloud you work on. Which is, nice, but it pales in comparison to an actual product. One that works with all the TVs and all the clouds and all the people. So in many ways, what you want in a product that you work on as a dev team, you want something sleek and shiny and precise, like an Hattori Hanzo soda, if anybody recognizes the scene. So in many ways, I became a junior again. I had to relearn all these new skills. I was lacking, I didn't know how to do Python well. I didn't know how to do design patterns, clean code. These are things that you have to learn how to do as a developer. But I had great mentors who didn't care what I did before. It's cool that you were an operations engineer to get. That's nice. But here, we want quality. And they did not settle. They did not give me any slack. And after I spent a lot of time with them and I learned, I became better at my craft. Also, I went through the looking glass, which means now I know how these things are made. I know the limitations. I know what they can and can't do, which is incredibly important for pretty much any engineer. Now I'd like to focus on the next move I made, from a developer at Cloudify to a DevOps engineer at Oracle Data Cloud. So I'm back to being the Swiss Army knife of computing again, and I'm doing all these things, and it's awesome, it's fun, you know? We like doing these things. And, you know, we can kludge again because it's only for us. We can like hack things together using Stack Overflow and duct tape. But now, I know Kung Fu. Or rather, Python. Come on, Python is the Kung Fu of the operations world. I can dive into code much better. Also, I speak dev now, so I communicate way better with other people. And I'm even more independent. So have I convinced you that sysadmins should have developer experience? Yes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's okay. We'll get to you later again. One of the pros is that you gain a lot more skills during this process. You learn how others work, which means you learn how they think, which means you can provide better service as a platform engineer. You can build way better tools. I mean, way better tools. But it's hard. It's really hard. You're going to work your ass off. You're going to get talked down to by a guy 10 years younger than you, and they do know better. But you have to check your ego at the door and understand that this is a learning experience for you. You're going to probably take some kind of pay cut or miss out on that raise you've been expecting because a junior developer does not generate the same value for the company as a senior DevOps engineer. You're going to lose progress in your current path. For example, I list out on the entire container revolution when I was at Cloudify. But that's okay. I made it up later, and I can Docker as well as the next guy. We all live in a 2-year technology cycle anyway. And here's one common misconception. You will not become a senior developer because you do this. The same way that no matter what we do to this Google Cardboard, it will always not be this Oculus Rift. Because we retain our original identity. You see, we've been training for this since childhood. We started out with Legos and made our way to DOS shells. This is how we get good. We practice, we work on things. All these things have been leading us to this point as where we are as engineers. Have you seen this movie? Raise your hand if you've seen the movie. Come on, no sleepy time. So, one of the main points of this film is that this guy eventually ends up winning $1 million. I know, spoiler alert for a movie that's like 20 years old. And he does it because of his rich life experience. You see, he knows the answers to all these questions that most people are not supposed to know because of his rich life experience. You see, all these trials and tribulations and all this diverse experience that he had, that's what led him to the point where he can take charge of this knowledge and win $1 million, which is, pretty awesome. And this is true for our field too. Many people are moving between jobs to get the full stack experience. They do the mobile job, and then they do the front end job, then they do the back end job, and then they do the infra job. And that's how they get to become a real full stack engineer. And here's the problem. All these people moving jobs, that's like crazy expensive. Every time you move a job, this is how much it costs the company. These numbers are from Gartner, by the way. And some companies are trying to tackle this. For example, what Joel does is that they have these like 2-year chapterships where they let people decide that, yeah, now I'm going to do 2 years as a front-end guy and then another 2 years as a back-end guy or whatever. This is Roy Deutsch, by the way. He gave a great talk called The Jack of All Trades Engineer. Do you know what the difference between an eagle and a duck is? In this combination of air and land, the eagle is king. He destroys the duck. He owns the sky. But you know what the one thing that the eagle can't do? An eagle can't swim. So if there's a flood, that eagle is screwed. So what seems to be an inherent disadvantage for the duck, where he can fly but not as well as an eagle. He can swim but not as well as a fish. He can walk but not as well as a puma. But his multidisciplinarism increases his survivability. So if you were like a .NET developer in the early 2000s and you thought that was all you're going to do and you're going to be fine, you're probably not doing so well right now. But the other guys, the guys who are moving around and they got to try a whole bunch of other different things, they're doing really, really well. Another thing is the retirement age. You see, according to current actuaries, we'll be working well into our 70s because of the rise of life expectancy. So, you see, I'm 36. I got 42 years of career left. I'm not even halfway there. And this is an insanely great opportunity. You get to do all these things and change and try. And I consider this a great thing. Come on, we get to live out our lives as great engineers building stuff. How cool is that? And this is where I work now. I work for a company that allows me to try different things as part of my job. I mean, I still made stuff like this when I came in, which is stuff that I already knew, which is cool and everything. But then I got to make this. I got to learn Go language on the job. Go and work for companies that let you do this. So in summary, working different roles improves different skills. You want to be good, you want to learn how to develop, go be a developer. You want to learn how to do sales, go work in sales. You will not gain these skills by doing something on the side. Doing something on the side is nice, but this needs to be the primary thing that you do every day, or you will not get better. This is why they have training camps. This of course has a price, but many people think it's worth it, and it's backed by current trends in HR. You can see that it's totally fine to move jobs for civilian talent. Trying on different roles does not change who you are. I'll repeat that again because it's not that obvious. Trying on different roles does not change who you are. You can be an operations engineer for 10 years, go be a developer for 2, come back. You're still most likely thinking like an operations engineer. Our generation will work way into our 70s, which means we have a lot of time to experiment. And here's the most important thing. Being multidisciplinary is like a cool bonus thing now. It's really cool, and it allows you to move jobs, and it's fun, and it's great. But this will be mandatory in the future. Thank you.